Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2019 Toyota RAV4, we're going to be showing you how to install the Curt 1.25" trailer hitch receiver. Before we do that though, let's check this one out and compare it to some of the others. When it comes to the RAV4, really versatile SUVs, and people use them to do a lot of different things. And so having a trailer hitch back here makes sense. You know, it looks right at home and allow you to get the job done. With that said, this hitch has that smaller 1.25" by 1.25" receiver tube opening, and in my opinion, I think they look a little bit better compared to the 2" by 2" ones, the bigger ones, because they're just less noticeable, but they're a little more limited on what they're going to be able to do, right? So generally, I usually only recommend, you know, these 1.25" hitches if you already have that size accessory and that's really all you plan on doing with it. But if you're someone who's looking to kind of grow into the hitch, you might be pulling more trailers around, using larger accessories, that's where the 2" by 2" trailer hitches would come into play. A lot more versatile, and there's a lot of good options as far as those go. Personally, I like the eTrailer one. I think it's a great general purpose hitch, but you really can't go wrong with any of them. As far as what this hitch is gonna fit, it's gonna work with all the different sub-models of the RAV4 across the board, you know, from your base model to your fully loaded, to your hybrid like we have here today, and your standard gas motors as well. And a lot of people ask about, you know, will the hands-free liftgate assist feature still work whenever you put a trailer hitch on here? And unfortunately today our car doesn't come equipped with it, but I've done a lot of these in the past, and all of them that I've ran into work just fine. As long as you kick your foot to either side of the receiver tube opening, the hatch will open up like it should. The hitch is going to use the 1/2" size pin and clip, which does not come included. If you need one, not a big deal. Get it here at eTrailer. A lot of times too, if you end up buying a new accessory, they'll come with one, so something to look out for there. Safety chain openings, pretty standard. Going to be large enough to allow you to use just about any size hook that you might have. And one thing that I like about the Curt is the collar here, right? It's a single piece. I think it looks finished and complete. And I say that compared to the other 1.25" hitch available, which is the draw type. That hitch is going to look similar where it sits and everything, but the collar just doesn't really do it for me. But that's my opinion. So if it were me and I was gonna put an 1.25" hitch on my RAV4, it'd definitely be this one because of the appearance. We'll grab a couple measurements now, and these will help us figure out what type of accessories will work best. If you go from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, taking into account the lift that we're parked on here, that's gonna be about 11.5 inches. So for those of you that plan on pulling a small trailer around, you could probably get a ball mount that has a rise in the shank. Probably that 4" range work well for most people. And if you have an accessory like a bike rack or something that has a straight shank, you'll probably be all right. You know, that's still, you know, a decent amount off the ground. But if you're gonna buy a new one, probably wouldn't hurt to find one that also has a rise. You know, give you a little more ground clearance back here. But it's up to you. Then if you go from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 5 inches, and you can use that to help figure out exactly if any of those folding type accessories that you might have can be stored upright without hitting the back of your RAV4. As far as the weight capacities go, the hitch is going to have a 350-pound maximum gross tongue weight rating, and that's going to be the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. So that's good for those 1 to 3, maybe 4 bike racks, just depending on how heavy everything is, to give you an example there. And as far as the maximum gross trailer weight rating, that's going to be 3,500 pounds. That's the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. So that is the weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have in or on it. And with all that said, I do always like to recommend, it's always a good idea just to grab your Toyota's owner's manual. That way you can check in there and make sure that your RAV4 can handle that much weight safely. Other than that, when it comes down to it, if you're looking for an 1.25" hitch, this is the one I would go with. I think it looks the best and should work out pretty well for you. As far as the installation goes, it's pretty straightforward. For the most part, you put the hitch up and bolt it in. There's a couple things that I do differently to make it even easier, so hopefully that could help you out. And really, one of the things you may run into is having the correct tool over on the passenger side. on the frame rail. It's kind of tight in there, so you don't have a ton of room to use your standard regular type socket, but not really a big deal. I'll show you a couple different things that you can do to tighten that hardware down and actually be able to get in there. So take your time, should be in good shape. If this is something you don't want to mess with, don't have the time, place to work on it, whatever, you can always use our dealer locator network, and that can help you find a shop in your neighborhood that can help you out with this. But if you're doing it yourself, hang around, we'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be underneath the back of our RAV4, and we're going to start over here on the passenger side, and that's because we're going to have a tow hook that we need to remove. There's just going to be two 17mm head bolts holding that tow hook on. So we'll get those removed, lower it from our vehicle, and set it to the side as we will not be reinstalling it. You can lower your exhaust now. This step isn't absolutely necessary. I've done it both ways, you know, keeping the exhaust up and getting the hitch into position, but honestly, it's pretty easy to let the exhaust come down, and it's well worth it. It gives you a lot more room to work. So prior to doing that, I like to take a strap and just run it from side to side. That way the exhaust will have a little bit of support. There's just two 12mm head bolts holding the exhaust hanger up. And from this point on, whatever we do to one side of a RAV4, we're also going to do to the other side. It'll be set up the same way. Pull these out. And I already took the other side bolts off. So put this one down. You know, it just buys us a little bit of extra room to work here. If you look at the side of your frame rail, you're going to have two stickers on it. One here. We'll just take a scraper and peel them off. And that'll expose one of our attachment points. And the other one, if you just follow the frame towards the back of the car, we'll have them right there. Even though the attachment points were covered, it's not a bad idea. You can put some penetrating oil or something in there, take a toothbrush, and just clean out the threads. And if for whatever reason your threads are really rusty or something like that, and you're having a hard time getting the hardware started, you can always more or less recut them using a tap. This is an M12 by 1.25 thread pitch. And if you have to do this, chances are pretty good you won't, but if you have to, the way these work is they thread in there and pretty much cut new threads, right? And so you want to make sure you get it started straight and everything, and that'll make your attachment points like new again. As far as the hardware that we're going to use to secure the hitch, it's going to be the same for all of our attachment points. You're just going to have a bolt and a conical tooth washer, and when you put that washer on the bolt, you want to do it like this, to where when you thread this in, you know, the teeth on the washer are going to face towards the hitch. As far as our hardware that we're going to use, it's going to be the same for all of our attachment points. You're going to have a bolt and a conical tooth washer. Put the washer on the bolt like this, and you want to make sure that the teeth are going to face towards the hitch whenever you thread this in. If you can have someone give you a hand with this part, definitely makes it easier. But what you'll do is you'll have to kind of put the hitch in place one side at a time to help clear our exhaust. We'll lift it up into position here. Get everything lined up. Take our hardware and get them all started hand tight. Once you have all the hardware in place and hand tight, you can come back with a 19mm socket and snug it down. Over on the passenger side, when you go to tighten the bolts down, you know, you don't have nearly as much room. So if you happen to have a ratcheting wrench like this, definitely makes things a little bit faster. But if not, you know, your standard regular box wrench will work just fine as well. You want to make sure to come back now with a torque wrench and tighten down all of your hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. As far as getting the passenger side bolts torqued down, you know, it could be a little tricky trying to get your torque wrench in there with a regular socket on it because of the clearance. So there's several different tools that you can use. You know, you have these, they're called crow's feet. This, I call it a dog bone. It's probably my favorite style, but with these, you know, all these, you can put it on your wrench and it's really low profile, allows you to get up there and torque that bolt down. If you did lower your exhaust, at this point now we can re-secure it the opposite way that we lowered it. Last but not least, we can now get our strap removed. And with that complete, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2019 Toyota RAV4.